Welcome or welcome back for some more Generation Zero. Yesterday, the three-wheeled update dropped, and alongside that, we actually got the Flak Moped Accessories Pack DLC. Now, I am not normally a fan of the DLCs that the team drop, but I actually quite like this one. This one is relatively good because the Flak Moped is relatively usable without purchasing the DLC, but the DLC adds some unique features to it. I do think that they shouldn't have added it as a DLC. It should have been base game item, just as, I think an actual DLC with storyline would have been a much better route to go, but we're not going to talk about that in today's video. Now, the base Flak Moped can be found, and it is relatively easy to find. We'll go over that in just a second. But the items that you actually get with this DLC are these three here, which is the utility Flak Moped, which comes with storage, crafting, and a recycling station. Then we have the off-road Flak Moped, which is, well, the name's in the title, it's for off-road. And then finally, the utility and heavy fortified Flak Moped, which basically works as a sort of battering ram. Very, very cool. Looks awesome. But today we're going to put these three to the test and see which ones are good and whether this DLC is worth the money. Now, first things first, I've had a lot of people asking where you actually get the base Flak Moped. Now, you can loot it from Firebirds, from what I've seen and heard, but apparently there's, I don't know if there's a bug or not, but it doesn't stay in your inventory, and you can't spawn it from the actual bench. But if you come to this safe house here, which is just at the bottom of the farmlands region, and come outside of the barn is just here. The door is just there next to the bicycle station, and here you will find the base Flak Moped. Now, in the previous video, I did have a lot of people asking where the dirt track was. Now, it is in the farmlands region, pretty much center, and it's just here. You can see it on the map. It is just above the dirt track control point. So, awesome place to come and test out any vehicles. Now, as per usual, we're going to give it a little test on the track and see how long it takes. Now, the dirt track, if you do not know, is actually concrete. It's classed as a road, so you can get top speed out of any vehicle that you bring over to it, as long as you stay on the actual track itself. It's not very clearly marked out, especially when you've got snowy weather like this, but it is loads of fun, and you can get top speed. The top speed being on this version is just 50 kilometers an hour. Now, because it's not an off-road vehicle, when you do take it off, that drops down to between 27 to 32 kilometers an hour at the top speed. So, off-road, this is not really feasible. Obviously, you can have somebody in the front, which will make things a little bit easier when it comes to combat and sort of evading enemies by going off-road. But, yeah, not the greatest. It handles really easy, though, the base version, whereas some of the higher up ones in the DLC, they're a bit tougher to handle, especially going around tight corners or jumps. This one's really simple, works really well, and does the job. Now, trusty standard, not the greatest on the actual track. It only come in at 1 minute and 41 for a full lap, so pretty damn slow, but we'll see how that compares to the DLC ones. Next up, we're looking at the off-road Flak Moped. Now, this one is pretty much exactly the same as the base model, but as you can see, it has snow chains, well, what looks to be snow chains wrapped around the front tyres, and the box on top is a little bit shorter, so there's not too much of a lip on it. The lip doesn't actually make any difference anyway. Now, let's put it to the test on our useful, trusty track. Now, the off-road one is much better. This is definitely, I think, the best one when in terms of sort of getting from A to B, because you can get a top speed of 65 out of this on or off-road. Works much quicker on road. You can get to 65. Going downhill, you can go up to 70. But if you're going across fields and stuff, the thing that I topped it out at was 62. So it is a little bit quicker on roads. But this one, because of the speed, you wouldn't think it's too much. Because it's only 10 kilometers an hour faster, but it's very difficult to control, especially going around corners. Great little track though, great little bike. It gets some wicked air on it, and it's just all around fun to use this one. I definitely prefer this one to the base. I have obviously had my gripes with DLCs in the past, but this one, to be fair, is actually quite a good one. So, the off-road Flak Moped is relatively good, and that came in at a whopping 1 minute and 17 seconds. Sorry, 27 seconds. So, already much faster than the base version by almost. Next up is the reinforced Flak Moped, which is definitely one of the best ones. if not the best, mainly just because, well, what it looks like is very, very cool, and it's actually made from a full-on motorbike. So the military motorbike that you get with one of the previous DLCs, I believe it was, and it looks like it's that with the flak moped frame put on the front. So very, very cool, and it is really, really quick. It's also very effective against ramming machines, as you can see here. The only downside is when you get up to full speed, you ram a machine, you will kill them, but for some reason it puts you in a dead stop, so you can't like ram through them and move them out of the way, which is a bit of a pain in the arse when it comes to the whole ramming aspect of it. Now let's take it for a test host on our trusty old track. Now this thing is much quicker than the other two that we've shown so far, coming in at a whopping 63 mile an hour off-road, and that is just where I found a decent stretch. If you've got a nice flat long patch, you will probably get a bit quicker out of that, especially if you're going downhill. But even on the road we can get over 70. I've got to 75 tops, and it handles surprisingly well. The cornering on it is brilliant. Works really, really well, goes around corners really, really easy, and because it is a lot faster, you take those jumps quite high, and when you land, it hits your health bloody hard. So I definitely recommend not going over too many jumps too quick, because yeah, it's a bit of a pain in the ass. So coming in at the fastest so far is the reinforced flat moped, coming in at 1 minute and 20 seconds. Definitely the quickest, definitely the easiest to control, and the best all-round version, I think, because you are going to be going through machines occasionally. I wouldn't recommend using it on a tank. You'll do some damage, but that tank will probably blow your ass up. Next up, maybe not the best, but definitely the most important one when it comes to this DLC pack, because it turns anywhere you need to be into a safe house. So this has a crafting bench, a deconstructing station, and a spawn item box, so the plunderer, which is great, especially when you're on the run and you want to be collecting as much loot as possible and being able to break it down. Now the downside to this, it is pretty much modeled off the base flak moped. It is a little bit quicker, but because it's modeled off that base one, it is very, very slow compared to the other two DLC items. Now, as you can see, it's got a plunderer, which is your plunderer, a consumable crafting station, and a recycling station, which makes this just an all-round beast, because you can do everything on the go. Now, let's test it on the trusty track. Now, the top speed for this off-road is only 39 kilometers an hour. On-road, you can get up to 60, and that is pushing it. The average that you get on-road is around about 55. But you can get up to 60 if you really push it and you've got a decent flat surface. But handles relatively well. Handles almost the same as the base flat moped. I feel like it does handle a little bit better than the base version. Definitely handles better than the off-road one. And it's relatively quick and just fun to use, the same as the other three, really. So our trusty little utility flat moped comes in at 1 minute 28, making the ramming version, or the reinforced flat moped, the fastest one around the track, coming in at 1 minute and 20 seconds. That was even with my little track fumble off the end there. Is this DLC worth the money? Coming in at £5.40, and I think it's $6 US or $7 maybe. So it is regionally priced. So is it worth the money? If you are playing the game pretty much every day and you are enjoying it still, then yes, I would say it is worth the money. But it's not worth coming back for to jump in and buy and play, because you'll get a couple of hours. Well, I don't even think you get a couple of hours out of it, because there's not really all too much difference between this and the normal bikes. Obviously, if you're playing multiplayer, having people sat on them is going to be relatively fun. So if you are playing multiplayer, chances are you're playing a lot anyway. So in that case, yes, I would say it is worth it. But it's not worth buying to come back to the game. It won't enrich the experience and give you much more hours of gameplay, which is a shame. But overall, it is a fun little DLC. The price of it is, yeah, reasonably priced, but I still maintain my original point of, I think they should do a story DLC rather than continuing to churn out micro DLCs. I'm glad that this micro DLC, though, isn't a weapon skin pack or something along those lines. Very happy with that aspect. For now, though, we're going to wrap that up there. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you have, you know what to do. Drop a like in the video, subscribe to the channel, and stick around for much more content.